Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya, and welcome to another episode of TFR Insights. And today we have with us Joel Mulkey, founder and CEO of Bigleaf Network. Joel, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about Bigleaf. You're the founder of the company. Tell me what problem you saw in the space that you wanted to solve, which led to this company.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was leading the technical side of an ISP back in 2011, 2012, and saw that folks were starting to move applications out over the internet, but were suffering from quality issues from that. Typically, voice over IP was the common app that folks were trying to use, and they were having dropped calls and call quality issues. And they were really frustrated. These were IT directors calling me up and just pulling their hair out. They were getting yelled at. There was no good solution. I mean, the technology at the time, your dual WAN routers and firewalls, it was all 15, 20-year-old tech. And I realized that if we took smart, intelligent software and used a little different hierarchy or architecture for that software, we could dramatically change that customer experience.
If you look at the modern IT infrastructure, things have changed a lot. Uh, People are leveraging cloud, people are leveraging hybrid cloud, multi cloud, people are working remotely, some people are using their personal machines, which also mean that to keep your infrastructure healthy, the way you collect logs, the way you monitor it has also changed. It is so. Talk about how things have changed and how important. I mean, the whole metrics has become, and and from your perspective, since you're trying to solve a problem, how people have been doing it wrong and how you're trying to fix it. So I have thrown a lot of questions there. I should have broken it one by one, but the basic idea is to understand the importance of monitoring, logging in today's modern IT world when we are leveraging all these things, and how people have been doing it wrong and how you're trying to fix it.
Yeah. It's amazing to look at the transformation of where IT lives, where applications live, and the proliferation of them over these last few years. When we started Bigleaf, the cloud was sort of used for shopping mainly, and was starting to becoming used for business applications. And then look at today, we're all working from home for the most part, and everything we do is in the cloud practically. And what that has meant is that applications have multiplied because you no longer have one corporate monolithic app. You got all these SaaS tools you're using. And the number of places and parameters and metrics that an IT operations group has to be aware of has exponentially grown. And we've seen that in our customer base where you've got pressures as an organization to be IT lean, to have a small group, and you have users that have very high expectations because the quality of everything is really good nowadays. And yet you have so much information with what is the internet doing? What are the applications doing? What are users doing? Where are security risks? There's no way you can keep up with everything that's going on. Users clearly are just overwhelmed with the amount of information that's hitting them, whether it's events or alerts or emails or logs. There's no way to manually, as a person, go through that. And I think we've seen some good applications of technology to address that. In the security space, especially, there's a lot of folks that have brought creative solutions to bear. But we felt like in the networking space today, it's still primarily an event-driven world. That, hey, here's an event that's happened on your network. Something went down or something is performing oddly. FYI, you should be aware of it. And then as an IT person, you've got to go sort through all of that and figure out what actually matters and what's just noise. And we've been wrestling with that as a company for a while and taking feedback from customers and realizing there's a better way to do this. We can use the power of artificial intelligence, and I don't use that term lightly. We've resisted it to date, but we think it's very appropriate for this to sort through that data, contextualize it, and determine really what should humans do about it and present that to the user.
When you talk about alert and event-driven alerts, Sometimes you want, or your system is sending alerts for almost everything, and those may not be critical. But you have a barrage, a flood of alerts, and then it becomes so hard to actually know what is breaking the business continuity, because you really care about business continuity. As you were saying earlier, that earlier cloud was more or less about shopping, especially during Christmas time. There is suddenly a surge of traffic, and then there is a valley after that. But now, because of this crisis, Uber or Uber Eats, or everything is cloud driven. So things have changed. So how are you trying to simplify it for them so that they are not getting a ping every 5 seconds about some event is happening in their infrastructure?
Yeah, I remember in my days as a network engineer having to learn to scroll through a syslog and almost feel it. You feel the patterns in it, and you can sense when something is out of whack. So you're not reading every line, but you have this perception, your sixth sense. And what we've done is said, hey, how can we apply that instinct sort of to what's going on in our software and do that job for the user? Because there's so many more log entries, they can't keep track. They can't even go through it like that. So what we're doing is taking all these disparate events that happen on the network, that happen in the IT environment, and sorting and filtering and really interpreting them into actionable risks that are appropriate for the business. We call this risk monitoring. And Bigleaf risk monitoring is taking these events, network outages or performance issues or devices that are down, interpreting them into risks with different categories, low, medium, high, and offline, and then presenting those to the user in their preferred format and mechanism. So a user can be aware of different levels of risk based on their preferences. We can even configure company risk tolerance. So you as a company may be more or less tolerant than other companies, and that influences the behavior of our software. And all of this combines to where, as a user, now with this, we're today reducing alert volume by 50%, and that's going to even improve over time. We're going to make some changes in the coming weeks that we think will get to 80-90% improvement in you only hear about things that are relevant for you to either act on by fixing them or be aware of so that you can interact with your users who depend on those services. We're going to get rid of all the noise that you would just normally filter out or delete or ignore.
And so far, also, we were filtering out that noise by, it was policy driven, right? To use those policies, but that is not applicable in today's AI driven world. So I have two questions for you. Number one is, how are you leveraging AI and ML to kind of cut down on unnecessary noise? And number two is, how do you make those alerts actually actionable? Getting an alert is fine, but what do I do with that?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the foundational concepts when we started Bigleaf that we sort of were leveraging is that we can create software that does this difficult, complex work better and faster than humans. And we don't want to replace those humans. We want to free them up to work on things that software hasn't been made to address yet, the interactions with people and other application needs, et cetera. And what we've done is, I always hesitate to use the term AI because I've always connotated that directly with ML. Yet when you look at the definitions around AI, it's really how are we using software to make these intuitive decisions like a human would? And we've built that in our SD-WAN platform, where our approach is, rather than a bunch of policies, let this intelligent software do the work. So there's very little configuration of our platform. And now extending that into risk monitoring, where you're not going in and setting a bunch of policies about the different risks that matter to your business and how you want to hear about them and all that. It's really built in. We have taken all the learnings as a company over the last few years and all the input from our customers and built that into this autonomous software so that it can make those decisions for you. And yeah, you can tweak that a little bit here and there, but we think that 95% of our customer needs will be met out of the box with zero policy, zero configuration. And so then when you're alerted based on this information, we also include suggested actions. If you have a WAN circuit outage, we recommend checking your cabling and contacting your ISP. Or if maybe traffic has stopped flowing through the service, we recommend checking your firewall and your internal connectivity. And there's other more sophisticated monitoring around how many circuits do you have online? Maybe you had 3 configured and 2 of them have gone offline, so you only have 1 left. Well, that's a higher risk to your business than if you just have 1 go offline and you have 2 left. So there's some sophistication to interpreting the severity or the risk to the business based on the status of your overall picture.
When you talk about AI ML, you are right about it because sometimes when you look at artificial intelligence, you can also think of Boston Dynamics robots, or in the simplest term, AI is all about, automation through, the step which are repeated. So you're right, in most cases, we are not going to replace humans, but there are a lot of tasks which are mundane, repeated tasks. That's where AI can do an excellent job there. AI is also, today's world is driven by open source. How much open source are you leveraging? How much are you contributing back?
Yeah, open source is a big part of our world. From early days in Bigleaf, we knew we wanted to invest our time in specific areas of technology that needed some very creative solutions that didn't exist today. So we leverage open source tech across the board, from our operating system and aspects of our technology all the way to our web application. It's fully embraced within Bigleaf, and we contribute back. We're proud of the contributions that our team members are making with patches and so forth. So we're very thankful to the open source community and think that that's been just a huge blessing to the technology world as a way for folks to communicate and collaborate.
Thanks for explaining all of that. Now, I'm curious about what does your own RAD roadmap look like? What plans do you have for future? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So today, Bigleaf has this great networking platform to improve connectivity to SaaS and cloud. And we've now added on risk monitoring as a feature, but we've seen demand to expand our technology to really be end to end for the customer, from their phone or their computer all the way to their cloud application. So we have an exciting innovation we're going to be bringing out around the end of the year, early next year, to really bring our technology to the rest of the customer's connectivity story. So we'll be looking forward to launching that. We think it'll be really this next step in automation of the network and taking that stress, that load off of IT teams, so they have really clear data on what's going on their network and can act on it immediately. And eventually we'll get to the point where Bigleaf is acting on that end to end, so they can focus on other needs within their organization.
Awesome. Joel, thank you so much for talking to me today, not only about the company, but also in general how you're trying to solve this problem for the whole ecosystem as well. And I look forward to talk to you again, especially you have so many stories, so many news announcements coming out. So once again, thank you.
Likewise, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.